camera is recognizing me as a human today, which is really exciting for me. Thanks, camera. Usually it doesn't think my face is a face. So today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 books of 2025. Now, I read over 150 books last year, which was a massive year for me. So you know that this top 10 is full of absolute bangers. And without further ado, I'm going to get into a couple of honourable mentions. Now, the reason that these are honourable mentions is not because they are worse than the top 10 on the list, but rather because I reread them in 2025 and I wanted to include only books that were new to me on this list. So, my first honourable mention is The Grace of Kings. If you're not aware, then I don't know where you've been, but this is the start of the Dandelion Dynasty. It's my favourite series ever. This book is incredible. Everyone needs to read it. It won't be for everyone, but everyone needs to try it, because if it is for you, then A, you have taste, and B, you're in for a good time, trust me. Now, the second honourable mention is The Will of the Many, which I reread because Strength of the Few is coming out. So, The Will of the Many is fast-paced, brilliant. I'd really recommend it if you liked Red Rising, or, honestly, Brandon Sanderson, for inexplicable reasons, but they just give me the kind of same vibe of fantasy reader. Now, The Strength of the Few is not in this top 10, which, if you told me at the start of 2025 that I wouldn't have The Strength of the Few in this top 10, I would not have believed you. But it was good. I enjoyed it a lot more than a lot of other people, but it didn't reach the levels of The Will of the Many. So, unlike The Grace of Kings, I wouldn't necessarily hard recommend The Will of the Many to the same extent I would with The Grace of Kings, which is part of a complete series, and all 4 books in that series, to me, are... they're good. They're good. But now let's get into the top 10, because that's why you're here, that's why I'm here. I'm very excited to talk about some books I loved, so we're going to do it. That was really gay. At number 10, we have Unsouled, which is the first book in the Cradle series, which... That's not supposed to happen. As I was saying, Unsouled is the first book in the Cradle series that spans 12-ish books. It's a progression fantasy, which I hadn't really read before. I'd read Dungeon Crawler Call, which is a progression fantasy, but it's within the big bubble of progression fantasy. It's a lit RPG. This is not a lit RPG. So it was the first progression fantasy non-lit RPG book that I had ever read, and I really loved this book. I'm now 5 books into the series. I personally still think that the first book is the best, and I know that that's not an opinion anyone agrees with, but that's the opinion I hold. And I think for me, the reason was because I wasn't expecting from this book what this book gave me. And then my expectations were higher for the next books. And so they met my expectations. This exceeded it. I don't really want to talk about the specific reasons why this impressed me, because that will then ruin the surprise for other people out there. But I genuinely really enjoyed this book. It was a really quick read, really fun. It does actually give me Dungeon Crawler Car vibes in that it's very bingeable, very enjoyable. The content is not remotely like Dungeon Crawler Car, so I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I enjoyed them and read them in similar ways, and I had to kind of pace myself so that I wouldn't just and read them all and run out of books. That was me. That was strange. That was odd. Pretty sure I know what... Oh, I do know what's at number 9. I love this book. Okay, at number 9, surprisingly enough, is another book I loved. Actually, no, it's a novella, which is kind of a book. I don't care. Anyway, at number 9 we had Every Heart a Doorway, which sounds kind of like a romantasy. I assure you, it is not a romantasy. And I've never actually thought about it being a romantasy before. But anyway, not a romantasy. Brilliant book. This kind of gives me the vibe of if Alice in Wonderland meets Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. I think that's what it's called. Great book. And I think what carries this book forwards the most is the premise, which just it's so good. And I'm going to tell you what it is so you know. And then you're going to go, oh, I should go and read this book because it's so cool. So it's set in this kind of home for kids who have come back from lives in portals. So, for example, Alice in Wonderland goes down a rabbit hole, disappears into this kingdom, lives there for a while, and then comes back. This home is designed for kids who've had similar experiences, but then felt that they really belonged in that portal, and they've come back, not being able to find the portal again, and then basically had a meltdown. They're stressed, they're sad, they want to find the portal again, and they're freaks. They're also weird because the worlds they've gone to and felt that they belonged in are full of really weird stuff. And so you get this really diverse, strange cast of characters who are super interesting to read about. You get to hear about all these weird worlds. I don't know how Seanan McGuire comes up with this, but I'm so glad she does, because this book is really brilliant. And this is a series of novellas, and I have no idea why I haven't read the rest of them. But I'm going to get to that in 2026 because I've somehow remembered that this series existed. I don't know how I forgot. I don't know what I was doing. But it's cool. Isn't that cool? I think that's cool. At number 8, we have The Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. Oh, I love this book. I'm going to say it after I say every book title, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Obviously, I love the book. That's why it's in the list. But I'm still going to say it every time so that you know I love this book. I loved it more than the last two, in fact. That's why it's higher in the number thing. This book is incredible. It's weird. Another weird book. Maybe I'm a strange person. Who knows? But I liked a lot of weird books this year, apparently. I can't even begin to describe what was going on in this book. Partly because I can't really remember. But also because it was very strange. There was this champion violinist. There's this, like, alien couple who've come down from space and started a donut shop, and they're blending in with the humans. And then there's this violin teacher who's made a deal with the devil and is teaching the violin prodigy. Very strange. Awesome book. I don't know what else to say. I cried a lot because of the book, not just like, I'm not just generally sharing that information with you. We're not that close yet. I don't know you like that. But this book's fire and strange, in case you couldn't tell from the weird list of characteristics that I remember about it. At number 7, we have The Incandescent, which I feel as though I may have mentioned before on this channel, but I can't quite recall if I brought it up before. This book, I'm going to stop saying that this book was really good. I promise. I'm going to try my best. This is set in modern day UK in a school that has a magic department, not necessarily a magic school, although there are definitely magic things going on at the school. There are also normal teachers and people at the school, which is kind of weird, but cool. And it follows a teacher's POV, and the teacher is kind of the head of magicness at the school. She is a boss, by the way. I love that woman. Can't remember her name, but I love her. At number 6, we have The Curse of Chalion by Lois McMaster Bujold. This is the first book in the World of the Five Gods, which is a broad world, but there's also a trilogy within it. I've read the trilogy. I'm a fan of the first one the most. A lot of people love the second one. I thought the second was kind of similar to the first, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the first. Brilliant book. Genuinely, I would say this isn't overly original in what it's doing, but it is a fantastic execution of high fantasy. I would say if you're thinking of writing a high fantasy book, genuinely go and read this, because this is just executed so well. Brilliantly developed characters, clever political intrigue, great world. It had everything. I genuinely don't understand why this is not more so a staple of the genre, because it is just a fantastic execution of the high fantasy concept. At number 5, we have The Death of the Author. Now, this is a sci-fi book by someone who's really, really grown in my author rankings this year, and that is Nnedi Okorafor. This is kind of sci-fi. It's near future sci-fi, but also properly sci-fi, because it's a book within a book, as is kind of hinted at by the title. The book primarily follows an author, and then we get snippets of her book peppered throughout the book in a way that really adds to the overall narrative. This is really great analysis of family dynamics, not necessarily easy family dynamics at all times, but complex family dynamics. It follows very real characters who aren't always perfect, but who you root for nonetheless. And I just thought it was really well done. I thought that it was an interesting concept. I don't read a lot of general fiction or literary fiction, whatever you want to call it, and it does read a lot like that, so it stood out to me, but it also had sci-fi elements that kept it interesting for my silly little sci-fi fantasy mind. So yeah, I thought this was a really, really strong entry and one of my favourite books of this year, obviously. Why do I keep saying that? Number 4, we have Skin Game by Jim Butcher. I have been flying through the Dresden books this year and loving them, and this is my top Dresden book. I probably could have peppered a few throughout this top 10, but I decided to just stick with one for the sake of variety and fun times. I don't actually remember which one this is, if I'm being totally honest, but I read the first kind of 9 Dresden Files books a couple of years ago, maybe last year, dotted around, and then this year I kind of restarted and went, oh, this is better than I remember, and then went and locked in and flew through, and I've read 12 months. So screw you, everyone who hasn't read 12 months yet. I'm way cooler than you. I've really been enjoying the later entries to these series. I know that everyone says it gets better. It does get better. I genuinely think it gets better. I didn't actually hate the first few books. I don't get the people who say start with book 4. That's a bit of a strange thing to do. Why would you do that? I don't know. Oh, also, I kind of forgot people might not know what the Dresden Files are, so for those of you who are somehow unaware, that's okay. That's okay, because I will introduce you to them now. The Dresden Files follows Harry Dresden, who is a wizard, Chicago's only wizard private detective. He is a cool, very tall man who goes around doing magic-y wizard things and solving all the crimes that confuse the normal police because there is magical criminal involvement going on. 3! We're into the medal winners, and my third pick of 2025 is, drumroll please, To Shape a Dragon's Breath by Monocule Black Goose. This is YA. It didn't feel like YA. It has so much depth to it, so much heart to it. It's such a wonderfully woke book that I think will piss off people who are like, why are there gay people in my book? Firstly, it deals with the themes of colonization, and the main protagonist is shipped off to a dragon school upon the colonized lands. She lives in an island that has been kind of semi-colonized and semi-left alone, but when she hatches a dragon egg, she is forced to go to the school in the colonization area and has to meet all of their customs and all of their cultures that she thinks are odd and silly, but she's forced to meet them because she's hatched a dragon, and so she has a level of power that they feel the need to control. The main character is native, indigenous to this high fantasy area. She is a woman living in a man's world because the kind of dragon riding school is a very male dominated field. She's bisexual, she's poly. Really gonna piss off some people. And I love that. But also, this deals with the theme of colonization in a really, really mature and interesting way. And I've read books that deal with these themes and kind of just go, colonization is bad. Isn't colonization bad? And points to all of the very obvious reasons that colonization is bad. This made me think a lot more deeply about some of the maybe less harmful aspects, but maybe just less thought about aspects that are equally harmful but aren't considered as much. And I thought it was brilliant. Obviously, I need to stop saying that. At number 2, I read Dungeon Crawler Carl this year, so here's Dungeon Crawler Carl. Again, I've put the first book in the series there. I'm 4 books into this one, and I'm 5 books into the Cradle series. And nobody agrees that the first book is the best one, but I put the first book there. In both cases, I think because I was just so impressed by the concept, and I'd never read anything like it. And then by the second book, I had read something like it. I'd read the first book in the series. So maybe the first book isn't objectively the strongest, but it is the one that I enjoyed the most because everything was new, everything was exciting. I got introduced to Princess Donut, who is a talking cat who is a real asshole, and I love her so much. I was very tempted to fly through these books. I've been very mature, and I've been slowly chomping my way through. They are so good. They're so much fun. If you want a fun read, pick them up. I was going to say lighthearted. Actually, not lighthearted, but very fun. And the first few are more lighthearted. Number 1. I love this book so much that I bought 3 special editions of it. And I don't have any of them here, but that's besides the point. Number 1 is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by Argo V. Schwab. The tagline for this is Toxic Lesbian Vampires. If you're not interested in reading it yet, I'll say it again, Toxic Lesbian Vampires. Incredible. This is a brilliant... I need to stop saying I love the books, but if you like morally grey characters, this is incredible. It follows a timeline that is like 400-500 years, something like that. It's a very long time, and it follows these vampires, various vampires who start off in certain time periods, and it follows their path and how they turn from kind of reasonably normal people, some of them are less nice people to start with, some of them are nicer people to start with, into not such nice people. Genuinely incredible character work. Genuinely incredible character work. The pacing and plotting does lose itself at some point, but I have not stopped thinking about this book since I finished it, which was in the first half of the year. Why are words so hard? I know why I like this book, but all I'm saying is I really like this book. I don't want to give away exactly what happens, but watching these characters grow and turn into who they grow and turn into was so much fun, and the themes were good. The themes were good. Lord help us. The themes were... I'm going to end this video now. How do I do like an outro thing? Like and subscribe. Or probably unsubscribe after this absolute mess of a video.